Hi, David Odell here with Odell Complete Concrete. What we're going to be doing here is removing this garage floor. We're not removing the entirety of it because the back of the garage floor is not too bad of shape. You can see this is the last crack. We're going to cut up beyond that. We're going to do a saw cut. And that way he doesn't have to remove all of his workbenches and a lot of the stuff he's got up along there. There's some patch. You can see how cracked this garage floor is. There's probably not going to be any reinforcement in it. Whenever you see the crack spreading and then moving up and down a lot like that, that's a good sign there's nothing in here as far as reinforcement goes. Right along here, this is a post that goes down to most likely a footing. So we'll saw cut around that, and then we'll leave that little section as well. I just used a steel cut-off saw. This is a 14-inch blade, and I'm going full depth with it, and I think we got all the way through it. So this concrete, it's coming out pretty easy. This tractor we slipped in here, but it was kind of iffy. I think it actually touched that garage door opener. So I ended up getting it out of there because he had no real range of movement with the arm and the breaker attachment. One wrong move and he could have, damaged something. So I ended up bringing the Mini in here. And it worked fine for this because this concrete's only about 3.5, 4 inches thick. So it popped out really easy. The nice thing about it, though, is after we got the concrete out, we realized they had a really nice sand base in here. We got a good 4 inches of sand base, which is ideal because underneath that sand base in this particular area, we're out here in Villa Park, California, and this is got a lot of clay. The soils really move a lot, so with the sand, and there's a good 4 inches of it here, that gives you that little space that you need for the dirt to expand and contract and not mess with the concrete. Oh, by the way, we have a winner announcement. On the last two videos, we did a tool giveaway. The first video we did was for the Milwaukee vibrator, handheld, battery powered, and the winner for that tool is Infinity 1000. And also the other winner for the DeWalt reciprocating saw was Jason Height. Also stay tuned because we're going to be starting another giveaway in this particular video, and you get to see that coming up here soon. Now on the form setting along that front edge of that garage, we're going to kind of do the same way it was before. There was a little 3/4 inch drop off and then the slab. That way when you put the garage door down, the water is not going to be able to ever come into the garage because you have a little 3/4 inch drop there. So we're doing it the same way that it was before. And one reason we are doing it the same is because we ended up leaving that one chunk in around that post, and that's how that is. So we kind of had to match it. Now the stuff we're using for reinforcing is Owens Corning, and it's a fiberglass rod. Although we won't be using it anymore, we're going back to old-fashioned steel, 3/8 steel, because the resources trying to get this stuff's not that great. So we're just going to go back to the readily available stuff, which is steel. Here's the bonding agent that we'll be using to do some patchwork on this concrete here. So I scrubbed it out with the brush, scrubbed all the dirt out dry to start with, then rinsed it, scrubbed it. Now I'm putting some glue in. And here's the material we're using. Another item that's readily available. Home Depot carries it. Now, when you're doing patches, you know they're just patches. I mean, it's not a permanent fix for sure. Who knows how long it's going to last. It could last a year, it could last 5 years, but it's definitely not going to last as long as a brand new piece of poured in place concrete. This is Milwaukee and DeWalt actually recovered all my tools that were stolen out of my truck. They ended up sending me all new ones, which was really nice of them to do that for me. And I even got upgraded a bit because I got the newest and latest, greatest technology again. And here's another one of the tools that replaced another one of the tools that were stolen from me, right out of my truck in the front yard. As a matter of fact, right here in Huntington Beach, California. And these dowels, they go nice and tight in there. We just did a 3/8 inch hole, and these bars are 3/8, and you can really slam them. I mean, even though that they're fiberglass, they're pretty tough, so you can hit them hard and they don't spall or flake. All those broken chunks of concrete from the removal, I just saved those. We're gonna throw them underneath the reinforcement when we get ready to pour here. We soaked this down pretty heavily and let it penetrate, and then we ran the plate compactor over everything. We soaked this heavily for about 2 to 3 days each day before we did the actual pour. Now here's that little step down I'm setting up. I'm just hanging a 3/4. It's actually called a 1x2, which is 3/4 by 1.5. Here's the passenger door over there. We're not going to do that little funky recess step. And with all this sand in here, you could put a lot of water in here and it really doesn't affect it. It makes it nice and tight, the sand. And it's always good to let that water come through the sand, saturate that clay, the adobe that's underneath, get that its full expanded mode. The more water in it, the more expanded that clay is, so you're at its maximum height for the pour. That way, when you get the concrete, it's all cured out. It's only going to come up so high at the point where it was when you placed the concrete, so it shouldn't affect the concrete at all if you do it this way. So in other words, you get the clay, the subbase underneath the sand as wet as you can. You could still walk on it because you have sand and you're not picking up mud when you're pouring, but it's very wet underneath. That's the beauty of the sand. Some people try to wet the clay, pour it right on that, and then you're picking up mud, and that's getting into the concrete. So if you lay some sand over it, now you got the best of both worlds. Use steel stakes on the inside, minimize the hole after I pull these stakes, and I have to wet finish the sides of that. Here's the pump, concrete, independent concrete truck driver, batched out of, I believe, Gary Bell, probably. And then we're pouring at about a 5-inch slump, I would say here. We have a red chalk line on that wall, on that stem wall, raised stem. And then we're just gonna push the concrete to that chalk line, hand float it right on the money. Then we'll hit it with the screed. We're putting this in a little bit deeper than it was before because every time we took a scoop of concrete out with the tractor, we took a little sand with it. So this entire project is it's gonna be deeper than it was, and it's gonna have a little less sand too, but it's gonna have more concrete. Also, I added fiber mesh in here when the truck arrived. I usually use about a pound a yard. And in this case, because it's a smooth finish, you really won't even see the fiber. Now, when you're brooming it, you're gonna see it, especially if you wet broom it, because then it balls it up sometimes. So you want to dry broom with the fiber, and then you will see it for a little bit, but it does wear off pretty quickly. That was a 12-foot aluminum screed we used on there. And here's a 4-foot wood bow float with a rocker arm. Oh, here's a couple test cylinders that I'm doing. This isn't really the way that you're supposed to do these cylinders, but they're a lot closer to how we do the actual concrete pour. Because typically on those cylinders, you want to pull a round post and jab it, and you want to do it in lifts as well. But it's going to be real similar to the way we placed this concrete, the way that I did it. So basically, what you can do with that cylinder is you could take it to the lab and you could break down exactly all the ingredients of that concrete, what psi it is, and anything you want to know about it. And there's the 5-foot Fresno going on. And a funny trowel. Now I'm just testing the garage doors just to make sure that they're coming down nice and flat. Because if they weren't, like say I had 1 inch on one side, half inch on the other side, or something else, or maybe a hump in the middle, I could adjust it at this point and kind of work the concrete a little bit. But if you try to test it the next day, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Okay, so I stripped that little ledge form off of there. Now we're just going to smooth it out. I'm pulling some cream off the top and putting it down on the bottom because I'm getting ready to run the cove tool. In this particular concrete mix, I got a lot of cream to work with. Sometimes you're not going to get that much, so you're going to have to just hand float and work the cream up. But this was a nice mix, easy to work. After we got done with this job, we came back the next day. We noticed some animal prints in the concrete that we can explore a little bit at the end. He may do an epoxy coating over the entire garage floor. He did talk about that a little bit, and it's probably a good idea. Since we've doweled in the two, the old and the new, it should be fine to epoxy. It's not going to get any movement there. Like if you didn't dowel them together like that, and then you epoxied, it might crack right on that line. You can see how much this concrete has changed, the consistency of it. And it's been about an hour between the first time I hit this edge and this second time. That's a 5-inch by 12-inch trowel. And it's a 1/2 inch radius on the edges and the cove. I was running the head cam on that little edge and that detail. A lot of motion involved when you're working concrete. Here's a little broom. This is a horsehair broom. I don't know what it was really initially designed for, but it's working out real good for this. We're just going to broom that outside piece outside the door. That way, that piece will match the driveway because the door sits on the upper edge. We're going to also put some saw cuts in this. That's when you'll be able to see the animal prints. You can kind of see them right now coming through that side door, but we might have some close-ups here. We're doing a double cut off of that post. Those are good crack points. using the Medusa by Skill for the cutter, and I have the DeWalt cordless vacuum, and I extended the hose. I added another hose to it, that way I can run a lot further without having to actually move the vacuum. Now on the edges I had to get the 4-inch right angle grinder, and I have a 4-inch blade in there, and then you can get real close to those edges. It turned out real nice. Whenever you can see a reflection on it, that's good. It's a good sign. Yeah, you can't really see with the water on there. You can't really see the animal prints. Hi, David Odell here, and it's Fan Appreciation Week again, and this is the third thing we've given away in each week. This is a DeWalt 184 piece tool set. It's a nice one. We all have one. Each one of us has one in our truck. They work nicely. All you have to do to get entered in the drawing is say, I want that 184 piece tool set, and put it in the Google randomizer, and then I'll reach out to the winner. Good luck. Thanks for watching. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Have a good day.